So continuing the theme of electricity on Yom Tov, which we discussed at the end of last week, and we explained that electricity which includes something which is red hot, like an incandescent bulb, according to the vast majority of the poskim, is a problem on Yom Tov because it is not comparable to just taking from an existing flame, but rather creating a new flame, which, as we've established, is not permitted on Yom Tov. Now, moving on now to discuss electricity on Yom Tov, which doesn't include heat. So an LED or a fridge or a freezer or even a phone for that matter. What is the exact prohibition with using these things on Yom Tov and using this kind of electricity? So in order to understand this, we have to step back and talk a bit about electricity on Shabbat. What is the reason? We understand why red heat on Shabbat is a problem because of the prohibitions of bishul, of cooking, and of mavir and creating a fire. But what is the problem of non-heat electricity on Shabbat? So what we can say straight out is that the consensus between everyone is that it's forbidden. The exact reasoning, though, on this, many of the authorities over the last 150, 120, 30 years, when electricity became more prominent, debated and discussed what exactly the source of the prohibition is. So one of the earliest theories to be put forward was the concept of molid. Molid is a rabbinic branch of makebe patish, which means to create something new. So the example given in the Gemara, one of the examples given with molid is it's forbidden on Shabbat to put a scent on a garment, to put perfume on a garment. One can put perfume on one's clothes, but not on one's garment, because that is molid reyach, that is creating a new scent on the garment. And even though it's not really something creating new, but on a rabbinic level, Hachamim prohibited this. And so therefore, one of the ideas put forward was that one is molid zerem, one is creating a new circuit. And in that sense, at least on a rabbinic level, it would be comparable to makebe patish, and thus is prohibited on Shabbat. One of the issues raised with this approach is that something which is made to be opened and to be closed, to be put on and off, like electricity is, it's on and off. That's difficult to argue that is something which is molid, that's something creating something new. But that was one argument put forward. Another explanation put forward by the Hazon Ish was that it's boneh, it's a kind of building. By completing the circuit, one is building a new circuit. So one of the melachot of Shabbat is to build something, and building normally means a physical structure. But here, the Hazon Ish put forward was that one is building a new circuit by completing the circuit. Again, there were issues raised with this theory, but that's another idea put forward. Another explanation given was that it's makebe patish, it's completing, it's the final hammer blow. One is completing the circuit and is thus creating a final hammer blow. Rav Asher Weiss, one of our Gedolei Hador, puts forward an original idea, but one which is very interesting. And that is, he argues, and there's a proof for this, that some things which are so clear to be an act of work on Shabbat, an activity of work on Shabbat, even if one can't precisely find what exactly melacha it falls under, if it's clear to the Hachamim that this is something which is considered an activity of work, it automatically falls under makebe patish, under the final hammer blow. So it brings a proof for this because the Talmud Yerushalmi tells us that the Hachamim spent, I think it was 3.5 years, going through all the different activities on Shabbat which are not allowed, and finding the appropriate melacha which each activity falls under. And then the Gemara says that any activity which they couldn't find a source, an exact melacha, they would put it under makebe patish. And the idea he learns from this is that there are some things which are intrinsically clear to us that they are forbidden on Shabbat. Yes, it's difficult to find what exactly the exact melacha is. But if we can't find the melacha, but it's clear to us this is something which is forbidden, then we're going to put it under makebe patish. It's going to fall under that melacha. And on that basis, that's another reason to be considered electricity to be forbidden on Shabbat. So there are different reasons given for why electricity is forbidden on Shabbat. And tomorrow we'll turn our attention to talk about on Yom Tov.